The NFL draft just wrapped up, and there was a ton of winners and losers for fantasy football, so let's just hop right into them with the first winner being Makai Lemon. There's a good chance that A.J. Brown gets shipped to the Patriots on June 1st or wherever he may go, and if that's the case, Lemon's only going to have to compete with Devontae Smith, and I think that will be a very equal battle. Now, Lemon wasn't my favorite wide receiver in this draft class. I had him at the wide receiver 4, but a lot of people really believe in this guy, and if that's the case, he's going to an offense where he'll at least have the chance to produce. This will likely be a top 15 offense. The one concern that I do have is that the goal line work is almost completely taken up by Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, and Dallas Goedert is coming back this year, so there will likely not be a lot of touchdowns to go around for Lemon. But with that being said, a lot of wide receivers in the first and second round had way worse landing spots than this, so I would consider this a W. The first L of the day goes to Brenton Strange, and this one's actually a bit weird, so stick with me. The Jaguars selected Nate Bokerker in the second round. I could absolutely be butchering that name, but nonetheless, he's a second round pick, and he's going to hurt Strange's draft stock. Strange was actually a pretty solid sleeper for most of last year, and honestly, given how thin the tight end position was, probably made it into your lineups a lot. Now this is likely going to be a tight end by committee, which we've seen over the years with Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, and Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet last season. Given that there's already a ton of target competition in Jacksonville with Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, and BTJ, this will likely be a guy I'm staying away from this year. But huge W's in the chat for Jordan Tyson, and man, I love this Saints landing spot. Tyler Shuck was an absolute baller from week 9 on last year when he took over. As you can see, Chris Olave averaged 20 PPR points per game whenever he was with Shuck. I personally believe that Jordan Tyson was the best wide receiver in this draft, and I had him ranked number 1. So given that he went to a solid situation, I am very excited to see how he's going to play this year. I will say the one thing that does kind of concern me with this Saints offense as a whole is that they didn't do it for a full season. We only saw it for half a year, and sometimes these small sample sizes can be a little bit fishy, but nonetheless, I still love this pick, and I'm super excited to see what this guy can do at the next level. But a big L for Eli Stowers. This one is very unfortunate. This would have been a great pick if the Eagles did not sign Dallas Goedert to that team-friendly contract, but unfortunately, Goddard's been there for so many years, and they just trust the guy. Stowers had a great combine, 82nd percentile production score, 86th percentile athleticism score, 85 total score. This was one of the best athletes in the whole draft, and he absolutely balled out his senior year with Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. So great talent, but given all the target competition with Lemon now there, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, this likely won't be a guy I'll be picking a whole lot of. But hopefully I get the chance to draft some of Jeremiyah Love, and this was exciting to see. At least he went to an offense that we know is somewhat serviceable, and like the Cardinals, they'll probably still be bottom 12, but last year, Trey McBride was one of the best fantasy tight ends. Michael Wilson was a great option at wide receiver down the stretch, and now we get Jeremiyah Love here. As you can see, running backs that have been picked top 5 since 2000, Jamal Lewis RB6, LaDainian Tomlinson RB5, Ronnie Brown RB18, Cadillac Williams RB10, Reggie Bush RB15, Darren McFadden was the one outlier at RB35, Trent Richardson RB7, Ezekiel Elliott RB2, Leonard Fournette RB5, Saquon Barkley RB1. Especially over the last 5 years, these guys have been cooking. Now we get to see Love, and I'm sure you've seen some TikToker calling him a heavier Jahmyr Gibbs, but I'm super excited to watch this guy play. There's no doubt he's one of the most talented running backs we've seen over the last 10 years. This one hurt my soul a little bit. Big L for Germie Bernard, and I really liked him coming out of Alabama with DeBoer. He ran a 4.48 40-yard dash, had great combine numbers as you can see here, but unfortunately he goes to Pittsburgh. And if you didn't know, Pittsburgh now has a ton of target competition. They got Michael Pittman this offseason. They have DK Metcalf. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be, and we don't know if their offensive coordinator is going to be good. So this is likely a guy I'm not going to be targeting in any of my redraft leagues. But a sneaky guy I might be targeting is Makai Branch, and he actually had a pretty good landing spot. If you look at the wide receiver 2 target competition in Atlanta, it's Jahan Dotson and Olamide Zaccheaus, 2 guys I am not really worried about. I know this offense will likely be bad, but I don't know if they'll be completely terrible, and a wide receiver 2 in an offense that's 18 to 20 range could put up some flex numbers, so this is a guy I'll be looking to target at the end of my draft unless they make some moves for the rest of the offseason. Massive L for Omar Cooper Jr., and this one hurt, man. This one really hurt. I'm going to go ahead and make this logo bigger because the Jets are the problem here, not Omar Cooper Jr. I just don't believe Geno Smith's the answer. I don't really think Aaron Glenn is a good head coach, and I think at the end of the day, this will be another year of a dysfunctional organization ruining great talented players. And not to mention, this offense actually has some sneaky target competition with Garrett Wilson, who I think is one of the most talented in the league, Omar Cooper Jr., as you can see, and also Kenyon Sadiq. Brutal voice crack there, but Kenyon Sadiq had a phenomenal combine. Unfortunately, like I said, he's going to the Jets. I'm going to make the logo bigger once again to emphasize how bad they are. This is not going to be a good offense, and if there is target competition in a bottom 5 offense, I just do not want a part of it, so steer me away from these guys. This draft was a big W for Deshaun Stribling. Now, I did not expect him to go this high at all. I don't even know if some of the 49ers expected him to go this high based on how they were reacting in that draft room, but hey, so be it. Here we are. Mike Evans is always injured. Ricky Pearsall has been hurt a lot as well, so there's a chance Stribling could get a chance to shine his rookie year. And if he's a headliner in a Kyle Shanahan offense, I'm pretty confident that he'll be somewhat decent for fantasy. As you can see, this offense over the last 5 years has consistently been top 15. 15 and top 10 in yards per game. So Stribling will definitely be a guy that a lot of the fantasy experts will be targeting over the next couple months. But getting into our next W, it was Antonio Williams. This is very similar to the Branch situation. If you look at his target competition, Luke McCaffrey as the wide receiver 2 and Dyami Brown, Treylon Burks, other guys I'm not really worried about. I think this guy might get a legitimate chance this year. And people forget, but the Commanders were actually super good 2 years ago. Now they were really banged up last year, but 2 years ago they were actually very good on offense. And guys like Dyami Brown had a solid year. So if Williams is the wide receiver 2 in this offense, I think he'll be a solid option, and it definitely will be a guy I'm targeting at the end of my fantasy drafts. Big L for Denzel Boston, and I'll go ahead and add Casey Concepcion to this list as well, because this was a brutal landing spot for one guy that I was super high on and one that I was not. The guy that I was high on being Casey Concepcion, I thought he was phenomenal. He was the wide receiver 2 in my rankings, and it really sucks that he went to this landing spot. I'm just not super confident in Shadur Sanders and Deshaun Watson being good at this point of their careers. Denzel Boston was a guy I was not super high on. This one still kind of sucks to see 2 top 10 wide receivers go to a terrible landing spot, but it is what it is, and they're guys I likely won't be drafting much of, especially because Harold Phantom was actually a monster last year when he was healthy, and I think he'll be a top 8 option once again at the tight end position. He'll likely be the top target on this offense, and also with Quinshaw Judkins there, they're probably going to be super run heavy, so just 2 guys I don't want a whole lot of. But massive W's for Jadarian Price, man. This was probably the best landing spot of the entire draft. Zach Charbonnet will likely miss some of the season, and now Kenneth Walker's out of town. You'll have to see where this guy creeps up in the offseason, because if he's like a 4th or 5th round pick, I probably won't be taking a whole lot of him, but first round draft capital and a guy that was pretty solid in college. I think there's a world where for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, he is an RB2. One thing that does slightly concern me, RBs that have been picked at the end of the first round: Javid Best, RB41, Mark Ingram, RB35, David Wilson, RB62, Rashad Penny, RB57. The list goes on. The only 2 guys that have really produced were Doug Martin at RB2 and Najee Harris at RB3. So Jadarian Price is a guy I will definitely be looking at. Just watch how far his price tag creeps up throughout the offseason. Big L for Calvin Ridley, with the Titans taking Carnell Tate at 4. This one does hurt a little bit for Ridley truthers. I will admit I was a Ridley truther last year, and that take turned out terrible. Whether you think Carnell Tate is going to be good or not, he is going to see a lot of targets as a 4th overall pick, and who might see even more targets is Wanda Robinson, with Brian Dable coming over from New York. Obviously, we just saw Wandale get absolutely peppered with targets there. But with Ridley not getting any younger and having a big injury history, his career is likely inching towards the end. Getting into our last L, it was Jonah Coleman of the Denver Broncos, and this one also sucks. Really bad running back draft class landing spots. Mike Washington Jr. going to Las Vegas could be on this list as well as a loser. J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey obviously aren't going anywhere, and Jonah Coleman will likely only be the short yardage guy, which isn't going to do a whole lot in this Broncos offense. I hope you guys enjoyed the draft as much as me. I'll be following fantasy content all offseason, so if you guys want to follow, go ahead and do that. Peace.